I did eat. Not because Dorian told me to, because Sarah appeared 15 minutes later with a paper bag, set it on my desk, and said, "Before you argue, don't. I have a mortgage and no interest in being collateral damage." Then she walked away. Inside the bag was a turkey sandwich, a bottle of water, and a small container of strawberries. No receipt, no note, no proof, which somehow made it more irritating. I stared at the food like it had personally offended me, then took one bite because my stomach did not care about pride. Hunger was humiliating that way. It had no loyalty. The rest of the afternoon sharpened around me. Dorian did not come back out. That should have made the floor easier to breathe in. It didn't. His absence had a presence. People still glanced toward his closed door before saying anything risky. Assistants walked faster near his office. Calls were answered in lower voices. Even laughter stopped before becoming real. I finished Westbridge at 4:42. By 5:15, my eyes burned from staring at the screen. By 6, most of the executive floor had thinned to shadows and low desk lamps, the kind of expensive quiet that made a person feel like every secret had room to echo. I should have left. Cassian would be waiting. His evening medication alarm was set for 7:30, but he hated taking the pills alone. He pretended he didn't, because he was too good at protecting me from how much he needed me. I shut down my computer and reached for my bag. "Morel," my hand stopped on the strap. His voice came from behind me, not loud. It did not need to be. I turned. Dorian stood near the private corridor, one shoulder angled against the glass partition, like he had been there long enough to watch me decide whether to flee. His jacket was gone. His tie hung loose. The sleeves of his shirt were still rolled, exposing forearms marked with faint old scars and clean muscle. He looked tired, not weak, never weak, just stripped down in some dangerous way, like the office had taken his polish and left the blade underneath. "I'm off the clock," I said. "Congratulations." I gripped my bag. "Was there something else?" "Yes." He pushed away from the glass and walked toward me. I hated that I noticed the rhythm of it. Controlled. Unhurried. The walk of a man who had never once worried about whether space would make room for him. He stopped on the other side of my desk. "Why did you come back?" The question hit harder this time. Maybe because there were no witnesses now. Maybe because the floor was dim and quiet, and his voice had lost the performance it carried in front of other people. I looked down at the edge of my desk. "I told you yesterday, I needed a job. You needed a job in a city with thousands of companies. Somehow you chose mine. I applied to more than one, and yet here you are." "That seems to be your favorite sentence." His mouth flickered, barely. "Don't flatter yourself. I have several." The almost humor should have made him less frightening. It didn't. It made the air worse because it reminded me that Dorian did not have to be cruel to be dangerous. Sometimes he only had to sound like himself. "I came back because I had to," I said. "For money?" I felt my face close. His eyes sharpened. There it was. The part of him that noticed too much. The part that could find a bruise beneath makeup, a lie beneath manners, fear beneath silence. My silence gave him a door. He stepped through it. "How much?" My stomach dropped. "Excuse me?" "How much did you need badly enough to walk back into my life?" Heat rose up my throat, fast and humiliating. "You think I came here for money from you?" "I think desperate people develop interesting moral flexibility." The words landed like a slap. For a second I could not speak. Then something cold and clear moved through me. "You really did make a religion out of hating me." His jaw tightened. Good, let it hurt, let one sentence find him. "I asked a question," he said. "No. You made an accusation and dressed it better." His eyes held mine, dark and unreadable. "Then correct me." Cassian's name sat behind my teeth. I could have said it. I could have told him my brother was sick, that the bills had become a living thing, that I had counted coins outside his building and hated myself for needing anything connected to him, that survival had dragged me here by the hair. But Dorian did not get Cassian. Not as a weapon. Not as leverage. Not as another soft place to press his thumb. "My reasons are mine," I said. His expression hardened. "Convenient." "No, necessary. History suggests you're talented at disappearing when explanations become inconvenient." I went still. The sentence opened something old and ugly between us. Rain, chandeliers, a kiss I had not wanted, his face changing, my voice breaking against his back as he walked away. You never wanted an explanation, I whispered. His eyes flashed. Careful. I have been careful for 10 years. Is that what you call it? No. My voice shook once before I caught it. I call it surviving. For 1 second, the room seemed to lose sound. Dorian looked at me as if the word had annoyed him, or wounded him. I could not tell anymore. Before either of us could speak again, a harsh voice cracked through the corridor behind me. I said, get security down here now. I flinched before I could stop myself. Not a small flinch. A whole body recoil, sharp enough that my shoulder nearly struck the desk lamp. Dorian saw it. Of course he saw it. His face changed instantly. The cruelty did not vanish. It redirected. He moved around the desk before I could breathe, placing himself between me and the corridor so naturally, so violently without violence, that for one unbearable second I saw the boy outside my school again. Not to you. A man from legal stumbled into view near the far offices, red-faced and furious, waving a folder while a younger assistant tried to calm him. This is incompetence, he snapped. Do you understand what happens if this reaches? That's enough. Dorian's voice was soft. The man froze. I could not see Dorian's face, only the straight line of his back in front of me, but the entire hallway seemed to understand something I could not. The legal executive lowered the folder slowly. Mr. Vercetti, I didn't ask for a eulogy on your self-control. The assistant went pale. Dorian took 1 step forward. Not fast, not dramatic. The man still retreated. If you raise your voice on this floor again, Dorian said, do it at someone who signs your severance personally. That way I can save everyone time. I apologize. Not to me. Silence. Then the man turned toward the assistant. I'm sorry. Dorian waited. The man's throat bobbed. That was inappropriate. Look at that, Dorian said. Growth before dinner. It should not have been funny. It was not funny. My chest still hurt. The man left quickly. The assistant disappeared in the opposite direction. Dorian remained where he was for 1 more second, his shoulders tense beneath his shirt. Then he turned back to me. I had not moved. His gaze dropped to my hands. They were shaking. I curled them into fists. Too late. You still hate yelling, he said. My heart stopped. Not because he had noticed tonight, because he remembered. The air between us changed so violently I almost stepped back. Dorian seemed to realize what he had said, only after it was already standing there, alive and impossible, between us. His mouth tightened. I swallowed. People change. No, he said quietly. They adapt. Different tragedy. I could not answer that, because for one dangerous moment he did not look like a man punishing me. He looked like a man who had accidentally touched a memory and found it still breathing. Then his face closed. Just like that. The wall came back. You can go, and he said. I almost laughed. Not because anything was funny, because my legs were trembling, my chest hurt, and this man had spent half an hour trying to cut me open only to step between me and a raised voice, as if his body still remembered what his hatred refused to admit. I grabbed my bag. This time, he let me pass. I walked quickly down the corridor, past the empty desks and glass partitions, toward the elevator. I should have kept walking. I meant to. But near the private elevator bank, I realized I had left my phone beside the keyboard. Cassian. Panic flashed through me. I turned back. The floor was quieter now, most lights dimmed. Dorian's office door was half open, his voice carrying through the gap. I stopped because my name stopped me first. I want everything, he said. A pause. Then his voice again, colder. Financials, employment history, addresses, medical connections, family, anyone she speaks to, anyone she owes. My stomach dropped. He was investigating me. I stood, frozen near the edge of the corridor, hidden partly by the glass partition. A man's voice answered, faint through speakerphone. Mr. Vercetti, from what I'm seeing already, her life hasn't exactly been easy. Silence, long enough to become cruel. Then Dorian spoke. I don't care. The words hit me so cleanly I almost made no sound at all. Almost. My breath broke. Inside the office, the silence shifted. I grabbed my phone from the desk with clumsy fingers and made it to the elevator before he could come out. Only when the doors closed did I let my face collapse. Not because he was investigating me, I had expected cruelty. I had expected suspicion. I had even expected punishment. But some part of me, some stupid, ruined 17-year-old part, had still believed the boy who remembered I hated yelling might care that my life had been hard. He didn't, or he wanted me to believe he didn't. I was not sure which one hurt worse. Chapter 4. The night Dorian Vercetti was shot, I learned that love could turn your body into a cage you would claw through with your bare hands. I was 19, standing in the back room of the little bakery where I worked after classes, tying pink string around a box of pastries for a woman who kept complaining that the ribbon looked uneven. Then the bell above the door screamed open. Not rang. Screamed. A boy from Dorian's school stumbled in, soaked from rain, his face white enough to scare the whole shop silent. "Morel," he said. The ribbon slipped from my fingers. I knew before he told me. There are some truths the body recognizes before language has the mercy to arrive. What happened? He looked around, like saying it out loud might bring men with guns through the windows. There was an attack outside the Vercetti warehouse. Dorian was there. My lungs stopped working. No, Morel, no. He was shot. The pastry box hit the floor. The woman at the counter gasped when eclair spilled across the tile, but I was already moving. Apron still tied around my waist. Hands sticky with sugar, hair coming loose from its pins. Someone called my name. I did not turn around. Rain slapped me the second I ran outside. Cold, heavy, mean. The kind of rain that made the city shine under street lights like it had been varnished in grief. I ran 3 blocks before I remembered I had no money for a cab. Then I ran anyway. By the time I reached St. Aurelia's hospital, my chest burned so badly I tasted metal. The emergency entrance was chaos. Not ordinary hospital chaos. Vercetti chaos. Black cars crowded the curb. Men in dark suits stood beneath the overhang, speaking into phones, watching every passing face as if one wrong glance could become a threat. Security had locked down half the lobby. Nurses moved fast but carefully, their fear hidden under training and white shoes. I pushed toward the doors. A guard stepped in front of me. "No visitors. I need to see him." "No visitors." "My name is Morel Marin. Dorian knows me." His eyes moved over my soaked clothes, my bakery apron, my cheap shoes flooded with rainwater. Nothing in his face changed. I said no visitors. Something ugly tore loose inside me. "He knows me," I said again, louder. "Please, please, he knows me." The guard's hand shifted toward my shoulder, not violent yet, but certain. Another voice cut in. "Let her through the first set." I turned. Dorian's father stood near the hall, thus immaculate in a black suit despite the rain, his silver hair untouched, his face made of the same cruel architecture as the hospital walls. Vittorio Vercetti had always looked at me like I was a smudge Dorian had dragged in from the street. Tonight he looked through me. The guard stepped aside just enough. I rushed forward. "How is he?" I asked. "Is he awake? Can I see him?" Vittorio's eyes settled on my apron. "He is in surgery." The floor seemed to tilt. "Surgery," I repeated. "He was shot twice." My hand flew to my mouth. For 1 second, I was not in a hospital. I was outside my school again, watching Dorian lean against the fence with blood on his knuckles, alive and arrogant and impossible. I was hearing him say, "Not to you." I was feeling his fingers brush mine in a dark movie theater because he claimed he hated romantic films but somehow always chose the seat beside me. Shot twice. No. A nurse hurried past us, carrying a stack of blood bags. 2 men followed, one with a phone pressed to his ear. "Get the surgeon whatever he wants," one snapped. "If the hospital needs a wing, buy the wing." I grabbed Vittorio's sleeve before fear remembered manners. "Please," I whispered. "Please let me see him." His gaze lowered to my hand. I let go instantly. "You will wait where you are told to wait." "Is he going to live?" Something moved across his expression. Not grief, calculation. "That," he said, "depends on whether this hospital is as competent as it claims." He turned away. I stood there, shaking so hard rainwater dripped from my sleeves onto the polished floor. No one gave me a blanket. No one asked if I had family to call. No one even told me where to sit. So I found a plastic chair near the end of the corridor and folded myself into it with my hands locked together, praying in fragments because full sentences required breath I no longer had. "Please, please, God, please let him live. I will do anything." anything. Hours broke apart strangely after that. Doctors came and went. Vercetti men paced. Phones rang and were silenced. A woman in pearls cried quietly into a handkerchief, while another woman told her to control herself before Vittorio saw. No one cried the way I wanted to. No one screamed. The rich grieved quietly because even terror had to obey class. I sat in the corner and shook. Sometime after midnight, I got up to find a bathroom and followed the wrong hallway. That mistake saved his life. Or ruined mine. Maybe both. I heard voices through a half-open consultation room door. The kidney is failing. I stopped. Every part of me went cold. Another voice answered, lower, urgent. From the trauma? Complications from blood loss, shock, and the damage pattern. We need a viable donor immediately. How immediate? Now. If we wait, we may lose him. Lose him. The words did not hit my ears. They hit my knees. I reached for the wall, fingers sliding over cool paint. Inside the room, someone cursed. What about family? We're testing. Nothing yet. His father is not compatible. Extended list is being contacted, but what? Time is not in our favor. I backed away slowly. My heart was beating so hard it felt separate from me, an animal trapped under my ribs. A donor. He needed a donor. Immediately, I looked down at my hands. They were still sticky with sugar beneath the rain and hospital soap. I thought of Dorian's hand in mine years earlier, split knuckles under my careful fingers. His rare laugh, his restless silences, the way he had once stood outside my apartment until 3 a.m. because men had been shouting in the alley, and he said, with that dry, vicious mouth of his, that sleep was overrated and murder was frowned upon before breakfast. I thought of him unconscious somewhere beyond locked doors. I thought of a world without him in it. And then I stopped thinking. I found the nearest nurse's station. The woman behind it looked up, exhausted. Can I help you? Yes. My voice came out thin, but steady. I need to be tested. For what? For Dorian Vercetti. I swallowed. For kidney donation. Her expression changed immediately. Miss Morel Marin. Are you family? No. Then I can't. Test me anyway. That is not how this works. Then tell me how it works and I'll do it. She stared at me for 1 second too long. Maybe she saw something in my face. Maybe desperation had finally made me look like someone worth obeying. Within 20 minutes, I was in a small examination room with fluorescent lights buzzing above me, and a doctor explaining legal consent, blood typing, cross-matching, emergency protocols, surgical risks. His voice became a long tunnel. Pain, infection, bleeding, complications, permanent consequences, possible death. I listened to every word, not because I was brave, because Dorian might die if I wasn't. Miss Marin, the doctor said finally, sitting across from me with a clipboard in his hands. You need to understand what you are offering. I do. You are very young. I know. This is not a blood donation. This is major surgery. I know. There may be long-term effects. There may be complications. We cannot guarantee. Is he going to die without it? The doctor stopped. That was answer enough. My eyes burned, but I did not cry. If I cried, someone might think grief made me unstable. If I shook, someone might decide I was too emotional to consent. If I looked as terrified as I felt, they might take the pen away. So I sat up straighter. Test me, I might said. They did, blood drawn, questions asked, forms prepared, more waiting, more pacing inside rooms I was not important enough to belong in. Then the doctor came back. He did not have to say it. I saw it on his face. You're a match, he said. The room went silent around me. Somewhere far away, a monitor beeped. My hands went numb. A match. Not almost. Not maybe. Me. My body had been carrying the thing Dorian needed to live. For one strange, devastating second, I felt joy. Pure, terrible joy. Then fear came after it. The doctor sat down carefully. We need to move quickly, but I am required to ask again. Do you understand the risks? I thought of Dorian opening his eyes. I thought of him never opening them again. I reached for the pen. My hand trembled once, then stilled. Yes, I said, I understand. I signed my name before terror could learn how to stop me. After I signed the form, everything became hands. Hands taking the clipboard. Hands guiding me onto a bed. Hands fastening a hospital bracelet around my wrist, like I had crossed some invisible line and could no longer return to the girl I had been an hour ago. A nurse helped me out of my rain-soaked clothes and into a thin gown that made me feel smaller than fear. Someone placed warm blankets over my legs. Someone else asked when I had last eaten. Another checked my blood pressure twice and frowned at the number. "You're shaking," the nurse said. "I'm cold." That was only partly true. She touched my shoulder, gentle in a way that almost undid me. "You can still ask questions." Questions. I had 1,000. Would it hurt? Would I wake up? Would Dorian? Would he ever know? Would he hate me for doing it? Would his father make sure I disappeared from the story of his survival before Dorian opened his eyes? But the only question that mattered escaped in a whisper. "Will this save him?" The nurse paused. Then she said, carefully, "It gives him a chance." A chance. I closed my eyes. For Dorian, a chance was enough to bleed for. They rolled me down a corridor where the lights passed overhead in bright, merciless squares. Each one flashed across my face and vanished. Flash! Dark! Flash! Dark! Like the hospital was taking pictures of the last few minutes before I became someone else. Near a set of double doors, the bed stopped. Voices moved around me. Surgical team. Anesthesia. Consent confirmed. Emergency transplant. My heart beat so hard the monitor betrayed me. Then, through a gap in the movement, I saw him. Dorian. Only for a second. A bed across the corridor. Machines, tubes, white sheets, blood no longer visible, but terror everywhere anyway. His face was too pale, his dark lashes resting against skin that should never have looked that still. My whole body tried to go to him. The nurse placed a hand on my arm. "Miss Marin, you need to stay lying down." I could not speak. Dorian had always seemed too alive for silence. Even asleep, he used to look restless, like part of him was arguing with dreams. Now he looked far away, untouchable, almost stolen. I turned my head toward him as far as I could. "Live," I told him silently. Not beautifully, not bravely, desperately. "Live, Dorian. Please." The doors opened. They took me away from him. In the operating room, everything was cold and white and too bright. A mask lowered over my face. Someone told me to breathe slowly. I tried. My last thought before the dark took me was not noble. It was selfish. I wanted him to know. Just once, even if it changed nothing, even if he never loved me the way I loved him, I wanted Dorian Vercetti to know that when death reached for him, I reached faster. Then there was nothing. When I woke, pain found me before sound did. It was not one pain. It was a country. It spread through my side, my back, my ribs, deep and hot and impossible. My throat burned. My mouth was dry. Something beeped near my head. Someone said my name, but it seemed to come from underwater. "Mirelle, can you hear me?" I tried to answer. Only a broken sound came out. "She's waking." Pressure? Still low. "Watch the bleeding." Bleeding. The word crawled into my half-conscious mind and stayed there. I drifted in and out. Faces appeared above me, blurred and masked. Hands pressed near the bandages. Medicine slid cold into my veins. At one point, the pain sharpened so violently I thought my body was splitting open again. I cried then, not loudly. I did not have the strength. Tears slipped into my hair, while strangers fought to keep me alive after I had offered part of myself to save someone who might never know I had been there. The next time I opened my eyes fully, morning had stained the room gray. I was alone. No flowers, no family, no Dorian, no Vercetti man posted at the door because I mattered. Just a dim hospital room, a plastic cup of water I could not reach, and a body that felt like it belonged to grief. I turned my head slowly. The movement made me gasp. A nurse appeared a few minutes later and helped me sip water through a straw. "Did he live?" I rasped. Her expression changed, not enough for most people to notice. Enough for me. "You need to rest." "Please," my voice scraped. "Dorian, did he survive?" She looked toward the door, then back at me. "He made it through surgery." Relief hit me so hard I sobbed. The pain punished me instantly, tearing through my side until my vision went white, but I cried anyway because he was alive. Dorian was alive. That was supposed to make everything worth it. For a few hours, I believed it did. Then the door opened. Vivienne Belmont walked in wearing a pale blue coat and an expression of perfect concern. I had seen her before, of course. Everyone around the Vercettis knew Vivienne. She moved through their world like polished glass, beautiful, expensive, untouchable unless she chose to cut. "Mirelle," she said softly. I blinked at her, heavy with medication. "Why are you here?" Her gaze moved to the monitors, the IV, the bandages beneath the blanket. She saw everything. Too much. I came to see how you were. No one else had. That alone should have warned me. You know, I whispered. She stepped closer to the bed. That you were the donor? The words sounded strange outside my own body. I looked toward the door. Does Dorian? Vivian's silence answered before she did. He's still recovering. But will they tell him? Her face softened in a way that was almost convincing. Morel? Something cold moved through me. What? She sat in the chair beside the bed without asking, graceful as a queen visiting a servant's sick room. You did something generous, she said. I stared at her. Generous, as if I had donated to a charity auction, as if my body did not feel carved open. As for what Dorian needs to know right now, she continued, that is more complicated. No, it isn't. Her eyes sharpened slightly. There she was, not the soft woman, the real one. He nearly died, she said. His family is handling a war, a public narrative, internal enemies, external threats, and an heir who cannot afford emotional distractions. I'm not a distraction. Vivienne looked at me with pity so delicate it humiliated more than cruelty could have. You are 19. So is he. He is Dorian Vercetti. The room went silent. Those 4 words were meant to end every argument. Maybe in her world they did. In mine, they made pain burn hotter. I saved his life, I whispered. Vivienne leaned closer, her perfume too clean for this room. And that is exactly why you should let him live it properly. My heart stumbled. Before I could answer, the door opened again. Vittorio Vercetti stepped inside. He did not look surprised to see Vivienne. That was when I understood. Not everything, but enough. He approached the foot of my bed, hands folded over the head of his cane. You will be compensated for your discretion, he said. My throat closed. Compensated? You are young, emotional. I will not insult you by pretending this was not meaningful to you. The monitor began beeping faster. Vivienne glanced at it, then back at me. Dorian deserves stability, Vittorio said. Not a poor girl using a medical sacrifice to attach herself to him. The sentence hit harder than the incision. I tried to sit up. Pain slammed me back down. I don't want money. Everyone says that before they need it. I want him to know the truth. Vittorio's eyes cooled. The truth is that you are unsuitable. I could barely breathe. Vivienne stood then and adjusted her gloves, not because she was leaving yet, because she wanted me to watch how easily she could. Rest, Morel, she said softly. You've done enough. My eyes filled, but I refused to let tears fall in front of them. Did he ask for me? Vivienne paused at the door. For the first time, her smile became honest, small, cruel. No, the word hollowed me. She tilted her back head almost kindly. Then she delivered the sentence that would stay in my body longer than the scar. Men like Dorian marry power, not girls like you. She left with Vittorio. The door clicked shut, and I lay there with part of myself missing, listening to machines prove I was still alive, while the world quietly gave my sacrifice to someone prettier, richer, and easier to claim. Thank you all so much for your patience and support. You all didn't freak out. You just simply pointed out what went wrong. And I am so blessed to have you all as listeners. You all are the best. See you all in the next one. Stay ruined.